Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And we are, well I am, going to do another Bookmas vlog. Can you even believe it? I know I can't believe it. I know I can't believe that I just paid $3.15 for this very sweet chocolatey drink that I reviewed at McDonald's. Today is December 17th. And it is my 26th sobriety birthday. Can you even believe it? I can hardly believe it. I've been crying all day today. I've been super emotional. I feel so blessed to be alive. I'm so happy. And I have fallen asleep the last 2 nights real early. So I have like slept all through the night and not vlogged, and that's usually when I listen to my audiobooks. So I don't really have any new audiobooks to report on, but I wanted to make a booktube video. So I was like, what could I talk about today that would pertain to my sobriety birthday? Because I wanted to do something that was like special about my sobriety birthday. But I also wanted to do a book vlog, because I've been trying to vlog more over here and do more videos over here and stuff like that. Everybody is going to Walmart today. They're all turning in here to Walmart. So I thought I would do a video about recovery books that like really like saved my life, like really helped me. And the thing is that if you're in a 12-step program, you know that there's things that are called approved literature. And those are books that are approved by said 12-step program. I don't ever typically specifically talk about what 12-step program I'm in, because I don't want to breach traditions. So I thought instead today what I would do is I would talk about the 3 memoirs that changed my life profoundly, that really affected me in a positive way. So, because there is so much literature that has really like profoundly changed me, and I don't mean literature like the classics like Jane Eyre, I mean like recovery literature. But I wanted to talk about specifically the memoirs, because I think for a lot of people, they're relatable. I think it has helped a lot of people. The memoirs get people sober. I think it's, you know, hearing other people's stories have helped them. So I wanted to talk about the 3 memoirs in order that I read them that really affected me and helped me get sober. And the first one was Drinking a Love Story by, I think it's by Carolyn Knapp, is her name. I will list all 3 of them in the comment section below. I read this book, I can't remember how long I had been sober, like a year or 2 or something like that. And, oh, I need my coffee. This is my water. Always, as being a good alcoholic, I'm double fisting it. Okay. I have water, and I have coffee, and then I have this iced coffee over here. So, Drinking a Love Story is hot in here. Is a book about this woman's relationship to drinking. And I remember when I read it, because it really talks about her, like her drinking and then her getting sober and things like that. It was the first book of its kind, it really was one of the very first books of its kind as far as a memoir that about somebody's addiction. And I can remember reading it, and I just was floored to hear somebody write so eloquently my story. Even though our story was so completely different, I still read nuances of my love affair with drinking. And she doesn't talk about drugs really in the book, but my drug affair, my love relationship with drugs as well. But this incessant kind of like, you know, alcohol was my best friend, alcohol was my lover, alcohol was who I celebrated with, it was who I grieved with. Alcohol was basically there with me always. And she really talks a lot about that. And so when I read it at that time, it was the first person, other than outside of meetings and, you know, counselors that I had talked to, that had really kind of hinted at this idea of alcohol being a best friend, and that we actually develop relationships with alcohol and we fall in love with alcohol. And I can remember there was this part where she was talking about sitting at a bar and she was drinking a glass of wine, and she was like rolling the wine in the glass, and she was like looking at the legs of the wine in the glass. And I can remember myself equally sitting at bars and being fascinated. Like, I was a whiskey drinker, so like drinking like, you know, whiskey in like a really nice glass and like I mean, I was 22 and a half when I got sober. I don't know who I thought I was, right? But sitting in like some hotel bar, like at this beautiful long wooden bar, fireplace burning, you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm drinking this drink in a crystal glass or something that I probably paid more money than I had any to expend, because it, for me, was the romance of all of it, you know, which is so sad too when I think about it that way, because there were other days that I was sitting there and it was, if I had $3, it was whatever cost $3, you know, but it was this whole love affair that I had with drinking and drugging and everything, that this relationship that I built with alcohol and drugs, and she talks a lot about that, and the desperation too. Like, I was so in love and addicted to the desperation of drinking as much as I was the celebration of it. I think to some degree, probably even more so, I was addicted to the desperation, and so she talks about that. It's a fantastic book, and I have not read it in years, and I was sitting here as I was getting ready to make this video, and I thought, you know what, maybe I should revisit these books. Well, the third one is something that I read just a couple years ago, so I don't need to reread that, but the first two are books that I have literally not read in probably 20 plus years, and I should read them again. The second book was Dry by Augustin Burroughs. It's probably the book that I have recommended the most to people when they have asked me like what treatment is like. Dry came out, and then several years after that, Million Little Pieces came out, which, if you guys know the history of Million Little Pieces, I can't even remember what the writer's name is, but Oprah had confronted him on camera about he made the whole thing up, which it was interesting because when I read the book, I can remember thinking to myself, like, there's a part of it at the beginning, like he enters treatment and then he leaves treatment to go have dental work done, and I was like, there's no way. Like, first of all, I don't think they would allow that. Second of all, I can't imagine in the middle of my detox that I went through, which was horrific, that I would have been capable of having any kind of dental work done whatsoever. But something like that at the beginning of that book. I never finished Million Little Pieces. I still haven't read it to this day, the whole thing. I've read bits and pieces of it. I do know a lot of people in sobriety that really, really liked it and really got a lot out of it. And their response to me has been, if it helped one person, why does it matter? And I agree with that. He also wrote a follow-up book called My Friend, I think it's called My Friend Leonard, that I just know people that just absolutely adored that book and loved it, and I've never read that either, so I should read it. This guy in front of me, it looks like he has like a flap or like something is wrong with his tire. But anyway, when I read Dry is about Augustin Burroughs getting sober, and if you know Augustin Burroughs, he wrote A Wolf at the Table. There was something underneath their car. I don't know what it is. It looks like it's like hooked underneath their car. Anyway, he wrote Wolf at the Table, and he wrote, it's the one with they made into a movie, and I can never remember what that movie is called, or that book. The soundtrack was fantastic from that movie. But anyway, shoot, why can't I remember what it's called? But, I'll remember it in a second. But anyway, Dry, if you don't know who Augustin Burroughs is, he's very much like David Sedaris. He's an essayist, but he's written some fantastic books, and they're all memoirs. And Dry is about him going to treatment. Now, in the book, he goes to an all-gay treatment program. I actually know what the treatment program is that he goes to, because I knew somebody that went to it, and they said that, like, while they were there or something, like they handed out that book or whatever. But that book is so, even though I did not go to an LGBTQIA+ treatment program, like that program was almost identical to the program that I went to. And when I read it, I just kind of felt like I was home. I felt like I was safe, and like reading that story was like reading somebody else's story that had gone through something that I had so similarly gone through, and it was really, really helpful to me. And I would highly, highly recommend Dry to anybody. You don't have to be part of the LGBTQIA+ community to get something from it. I've recommended that book to a lot of people that have read it that absolutely just loved that book. And it's also about developing relationships and trusting people again in early sobriety. But the whole book is mostly about that my experience, honestly, also, like, if you want a good movie, like, there's 2 movies that I related to so much, and the first movie is Clean and Sober with Michael Douglas. I haven't seen that movie in years, but that movie was, like, I so related to that movie when I saw it. Like, that was really my treatment experience. I had a counselor that was very hardcore, like the guy Morgan Freeman plays his counselor in treatment. And my counselor that was a woman, she was very similar to that. It's a really, really great movie. And the other movie is 28 Days with Sandra Bullock. I think they did a fantastic job with that movie. Oh, and the other movie is When a Man Loves a Woman. With Meg Ryan. That movie was like, it's more about the after, like what happens after you get out of treatment. But there's a scene where she like becomes very good friends with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's so sad that he passed from addiction, but so sad. But he is her friend, like, that she meets in treatment, and they're like having this conversation. The husband gets very jealous of it. I think, like, when you go through treatment together with somebody, and you, in early sobriety, later sobriety as well, we develop these friendships where it's like, you've gone through this hell, I've gone through this hell. We don't have to explain to one another what that hell was like, and so we relate to it, and we build these very strong, very quick, deep relationships with other people in recovery that I have never built relationships like that with people outside of recovery, because it's a whole different world. And When a Man Loves a Woman really shows that in a fantastic way. Also, Andy Garcia, that plays her husband in that movie, attends Al-Anon, and I think that's one of the only movies that I've ever watched that really addresses the need for friends and family members to go to a 12-step program for themselves, not to fix the other person, but to work on themselves in relation to the alcoholic or the addict. And I love that they address that. It's actually, I think, like how the movie ends too is around that. It's a fantastic movie. And the third book that I read, my good Judy Tanya and I read it a couple years ago. We both read it like within a week of each other, and it was called Blackout, and I don't remember who the author is, but it's called Blackout, Remembering the Things I Drank to Forget. And I mean to tell you, when I read this book, it was my story. It was unbelievable. It was about a woman that, like, when I say that these people's story were my story, like, I mean, it's not like the background was identical. I mean, this woman woke up in a hotel in Paris, okay? I may have woken up in a Motel 8, okay, with somebody that I didn't know, but that's the hard truth, and I know that that's probably hard to hear, but that's the reality. But I didn't wake up in any hotel in Paris, France, okay, like having drank a little too much. My life wasn't that, you know, it didn't look that glamorous. My life was not pretty when I was drinking and using. And, I mean, that drink that I was having at that hotel bar, that might have been one time in my experience of drinking, but you know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't pretty. It was, you know, it was the cheapest alcohol I could drink. It was whatever I could afford. It was nobody really wanting to be around me at the end. It was bad, you know, and, but she goes into such depth talking about blackout drinking, and I was a blackout drinker, and it was the first time that I had ever really read a book where somebody addressed blackout drinking on that level, and the shame and the guilt that goes along with it. She also talks a lot about sobriety, and but does it in an appropriate way, and I was really impressed with the book. I read it like in 2 days. It was so good. If you follow my vlog, you know that back then I talked a lot about it. I was really excited reading that book. I actually just recently bought another book, just this week, on Audible. That is the story of an opioid addict. It's her memoir, and I don't remember what it's called. But I love to read memoirs of addiction, I think. You know, and, well, I didn't even mention these two, but these were really, really, well, the second one I haven't read, Beautiful Boy, which was the father's story of his son's addiction. I didn't love the movie. I thought the movie was just okay. The book was so powerful, and I can remember when I finished reading it, I called my dad. I had a hard time reading that book. I didn't read it for years and years and years, and I'd actually recommended it to other people because I had heard good things about it, but I had never read it. And I called my, what's his, something Chef, because the son's name is Nick Chef, and he wrote Tweak, his own story, and I never read it, but I heard it was fantastic about his meth addiction. But I can remember I called my dad, and I said to my dad, oh, I have a book recommendation for you, and I said, you know, The Beautiful Boy, and he said, oh, I read that years ago when it came out. And I said, you did? And he goes, yeah. I said, how did you hear about it? And he said, oh, some article in the New York Times or something, or, you know, Wall Street Journal. And I said, what did you think? And he said, it was very difficult to read. And I said, was it similar to my addiction? He goes, it was almost identical. Like, he goes, I worried about you. Like, you have no idea. I worried about you all the time. I mean, I put my dad and my stepmom and my mom through, and my other friends and family through such hell. And I think Beautiful Boy really shows that in an eloquent way of what addicts and alcoholics put our families through without even our knowledge of it, because we're so selfish and self-centered in our own addiction that we don't even realize the effects that we're having on other people. So that would be another book that I would suggest. If you're a parent or a family member of an alcoholic or an addict, Beautiful Boy is definitely a book that I would recommend. It's a hard read, though. It's hard to read from you know, a realistic point of view. I mean, he puts his dad through hell and back, and I know I did too with my own dad. And it caused, you know, a lot of damage for a lot of years that my dad and I had to really work hard on. Thankfully, we have a great relationship today, but I mean, it's been 26 years, you know. It's like, how much time was lost as a result of me doing a lot of damage to that relationship, you know? So those are the books that have really, really changed me. I guess it was more than 3, and it was some movies too, but those are the books and the movies that really, there's so many more that I could tell you guys, but those are the ones that I loved the most. I will tell you, and I haven't watched this yet, okay, but my friend Tanya just texted, or she just called me the other day, and she said, have you seen, I don't watch this show, oh shoot, I can't remember what it's called, oh shoot, it starts with an E, oh darn it. It's on HBO. Why can't I remember what it's called? But there was a special edition, and she said it's all about addiction. And I said, what did you think? And she said, I mean, it's exact. If you ever need to explain to somebody what a 12-step program is like, it is exactly Euphoria. And it's the special edition of season 2. She said, you don't have to watch the show to watch that episode and get a lot out of it. It's a special episode. And she says, but it shows exactly what living in a 12-step program is like. So I haven't watched that yet, but I'm going to watch it maybe today. So that would be another recommendation. But yeah, anyway, those are the books and movies that changed me and really helped me in my own sobriety. And if you're looking for some recommendations, I definitely would suggest those. And yeah, I think that's it. So I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video, maybe tomorrow. Bye. Love ya. Love ya.